Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rick Crab here. Just wanted to announce before we start this episode, which is the first episode of the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. On a serious note, I want to acknowledge that when we recorded this episode, it was before the passing of John Huber was announced. We definitely want to send our condolences to his family, his friends, his colleagues, his fans, anyone that was close to him or enjoyed seeing him in the ring. We'll have a 7-bell salute before we start the show. Thank you.
Morning, dickhead.
Hello, moron.
What are you...
I can see you smile on my TV. You're spewing vile necessary dementia of your deception. I don't wanna be the tolerance. I don't wanna be the consequence. I don't wanna be the prize of that. It doesn't really matter what I say. Nobody listens to us anyway. Doesn't really matter what I do. I'm so sick of you.
Hello and welcome to the first edition of the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. My name is Rick Crab, and joining me is the other grumpy old man, Mr. Chris Villito, the loose cannon. How are you, Chris?
Hi, Putz.
Hi yourself, dickhead. But anyway. Alright. We're going to start off. We're going to talk about the recent events in the world of professional wrestling, as well as the year in review, since this is the last week of 2020, thank God.
You ain't kidding.
Alright, so part of the reason 2020 has been unbearable and unusual will start with WWE and tables, ladders, and chairs. What was your impression of the pay-per-view?
I gave it lukewarm at best. So to speak.
Yeah, I was going to say the quote-unquote main event was far from lukewarm, at least as far as Bray Wyatt was concerned. But
That was Crispy Critter.
Yeah. More like Vincent Price or Paris Hilton House of Wax on
Yeah.
But,
That was hokey. And I agree. I saw. We both listened to Jim Cornette.
right.
And you heard Cornette's review of it. And Cornette just went completely ape shit on it. Which
Yeah.
he should be. He should be. I mean, I didn't like it. Nobody liked it. Nobody liked it, from what I heard.
I think Cornette's biggest objection, well, for several reasons. One, he's not a big fan of Bray Wyatt or a lot of the theatrical stuff. I mean, some of the stuff I do like, but he's always been against hardcore wrestling, and his biggest objection is, okay, if you're hurting yourself, you're setting yourself on fire, what do you do to top that, and I think there's a lot of that going on with that, and
That's why he won't watch GCW, CZW, etc., etc.
And we were half joking about this off the air, Chris. I mean, just about anything that wrestlers do to each other, if we were to do it in real life, if we were to do it at work, we'd be in jail,
Or on death row.
Pretty much. Especially what Mr. Orton did, but I mean...
And it was obvious a dummy. Mm-hmm. It was brilliant editing, I'll give him that. Brilliant editing, because I heard they filmed that during the afternoon.
Right.
The rest of the show, it was there. I mean, it was there.
Right.
I felt like I was watching, again, like I said in other shows, I don't get Vince money. I watch it on streaming sites. Mm-hmm. Okay? Vince doesn't need my money. We both watch it because we support the art form, right? The entertainment form and the sport of it, quote unquote. But I felt like I watched a 3-hour version of Monday Night Raw.
And that's the thing with Raw and SmackDown. The quote unquote pay-per-views are not even pay-per-views anymore, really. The monthly cards, we'll call them. There is no differentiation from them. There's no incentive to watch the monthly cards from seeing these shows.
Unless it's one of the big four.
Right.
SummerSlam, Mania, Survivor Series, Rumble. Rumble was my favorite pay-per-view of the year.
Right.
And I love watching it because it's also, most of the time it's unpredictable. I don't know what it's going to be like this year with this one coming up.
And I think a lot of it had to do with and I don't want to go too much. I think it's overrated and over-exaggerated as far as audience or no audience. I think Royal Rumble, having the audience helped with that, especially with the surprise entrance of Edge. I mean...
Yeah. Like I said, other shows already talked about it. I was at Jimmy's Seafood when Edge showed up at the Royal Rumble, and you could feel the floor shake.
Right.
Everybody was deafening. The pop in the building was deafening. I can only imagine what the pop at the arena was. It was at Houston at the baseball stadium.
Okay, it was Enron. I think it's called Minute Maid Park now.
Yeah, it's Minute Maid Park. It was at Minute Maid Park, and when Edge showed up, it was deafening in Jimmy's. I can only imagine it was there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure of that. And the card, I mean, there were some good matches. I think the women's tag match was decent. The Carmella Sasha Banks, that might have been the bet that or the Roman Reigns Kevin Owens match. Those two could have been probably matches of the night. And there's a pattern there. Seems like the SmackDown, their storylines are much better than Raw. Raw, I don't know what they're doing, and I think seems like they know even less.
Well, Pritchard runs both shows. He's the head storyteller. But I'm getting like two different people. It's like two different people running things, but it's the same guy. Mm-hmm. And Kevin Dunn's still Kevin Dunn. So,
right.
And Vince being, again, 75 years old, running a show that's aimed for a younger audience, who's schizophrenic at times with the 3-week pushes, he needs to go.
And Trips needs to come in. There should be a new reign of terror. You know, instead of booking himself as champion, he should book himself as Booker. So,
well, even me and you have said out of the 3 shows, NXT is the best one of the bunch.
Yeah, although NXT's even suffered a little bit. I mean, NXT is, as far as, it's probably the closest to the indie-rific crowd.
It's the niche crowd.
Right.
And, I'll even go back to what Christopher Daniels said about TNA back then. It's like, it's indie with television.
Right.
And, speaking of which, you happen to watch NXT Wednesday night?
I just saw highlights of it, actually. I watched more of AEW, but...
we had a Steve Corino sighting. He was one of the guys doing a pull apart, and I'm sure Brian Kendrick was one of the guys doing a pull apart between Rhea Ripley and Rachel Gonzalez, which I can't wait for that.
That should be a good match. Yeah,
yes.
I agree.
Because you heard who the host for New Year's Evil is.
Who?
The former Sam Shaw, Dexter Loomis.
Oh, okay.
And all he is staring in the camera and doing artwork.
Right. Well, you mentioned before about indie wrestling coming to TV. I guess we'll have to talk... yeah, I really don't want to talk about Impact, other than... I mean, the only interesting thing that I saw is I tried to give it a chance, but... Yeah, the only interesting thing was the Callis and Omega stuff, and I'm not really all that interested in Omega. I think he's overrated, and I always get the argument from AEW fans, get it from him, I get it from Orange Cassidy. It's like, well, you haven't seen this stuff before AEW. Yes, I have, and I'm sorry. I am 100% in agreement with Cornette about Omega. His facial expressions, I mean, they look like early 80s Hulk Hogan. I mean, except even exaggerated, even worse. And I mean, he can brawl, he can move, but yeah. I mean...
I was oversaturated with him a couple weeks ago when I watched a Triple Mania show And by the way, that was an Aztec Arena, no fans. Mm-hmm. He was the main event against the Laredo Kid. Good match. It would have been better if I understood half the commentary.
Right.
He was on AEW. He was on Impact. He was everywhere. And that's an oversaturation.
Right. And he's not the best worker. I'm sorry. People hold him in such high regard, but I mean, this is what I mean by that. I mean, he had so many botches. I forget who. I think it was against Joey Janela, and he had to I don't know. He tried diving on Janela and he missed. And Janela had to sell some stuff. I mean, it looked crap, and it may be because of who he was working with. I mean, sometimes wrestling is a dance. You have to have a good partner. Especially, I mean, not everybody can be Rick Rude tutoring the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, sometimes it's more like Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior at Halloween Havoc. And
damn.
And that's what this kind of reminded me of. I mean, Omega, I think maybe it's because he's suited with the Japanese style, and maybe their bookers have more stroke and they tell Omega to do certain things. Whereas AEW is like Tony Khan he's just he's a money mark. He's a fanboy. That's all he is. To me, he's that kid that wants like MCW to come to his birthday party, and he has a rich father that can build one at a bigger level.
It was like Royce? Remember Royce Prophet local?
Yeah.
He was the money mark for MCW and MEWF.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy who brought all the good talent in. Tony Khan's no different. Going back to Impact, the best things on there are the quote-unquote paid ads from AEW. And Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone are a joy. I will say this. With Schiavone coming on there and saying, "Welcome to Impact on Access. Your city council meetings are after this," I cracked up laughing.
Right.
I was like, we moved your viewership up from 1 to 6.
And it would be even funnier if it wasn't true.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're doing over there. I mean, it's like I tried to get into it, but then they had the Who Shot JR type of angle, and I don't know. It's
the in-reaction's not bad. They keep on promoting their women's division. NXT is way better with the women's division. They have them in bulk and numbers, but can they work?
Right.
Tasha Steelz, we both seen her in NWA. Not a big fan. Kara Hogan, not a big fan. Jessica Havoc, can work.
Mm-hmm.
Nevaeh's there now, can work. Kimberly can work. Deanna Perez is probably the best worker in the company right now. And they just did her year-end awards, and she got Wrestler of the Year out of the guys.
Right.
And she also got Knockout of the Year. You got Jordan Grace, can work, but there's no wow factor.
Right.
Not like Io Shirai or the return of Mercedes Martinez Wednesday night, or even Charlotte. Even though Charlotte's been shoved down our throats.
I can make a comment about that, but
she's getting the Cena treatment.
I'd like to give her some treatment too, but I ain't going there.
Yeah, not going there. But do you agree about that? That she's getting the Cena treatment, where she's getting shoved down our throats to the point where we're getting tired of Cena.
I wouldn't say shoved down the throats, but I think there's the pedigree with her father, and she is a damn good worker.
Yes,
she is good. She may be arguably, if she's not the best female worker, she may be the top 5.
Next to probably Sasha.
In that company, she's probably better than Sasha in that. Although Sasha's pretty good. She's great both as a babyface and as a heel. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you, I'm really impressed with Bayley.
Oh yeah, I love the heel character.
Yeah, and the fact that who would have thought? She had that Katy Perry gimmick with the hugs and the balloon animals, and then go from that to
Ding
Dong, you bitch. It's like.
Yeah. It's a fun character, and I think she's worked hard for this.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I'll make a bold prediction right now. She's going to win the Rumble.
It's very possible.
Because we're going to probably get that rematch between her and Sasha at Mania.
Although the senile last-minute booking changes, I mean, could change that. But, I mean, that would, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to have to rewatch SmackDown because I was kind of inebriated last night when I watched it. So we can talk about that. You watched it?
Yes. And the matches, I mean, the thing is, you had told me what the ratings were for that, which is impressive, especially since it was pre-recorded, and a lot of the results were already online. They are kind of like you with movie reviews. A lot of spoilers. But,
Yeah.
but the matches, I mean, it was all... they might as well just call it a Clash of Champions, because basically that's what it was. It was all title matches. Which, I'm sure Mr. Cornette will probably poo-poo on, because it's like you had title matches after a pay-per-view, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, again, monthly card, because you're $10 a month is still $10 a month.
Yeah. Or even if you're paying traditional pay-per-view prices, it's about, what, $50,
Right.
$70 a month?
But, I mean... Probably the best angle in that company right now is the Roman Reigns thing.
Agreed.
Kevin Owens is doing superb work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Even the mullet head Uso is doing really well with that too. I didn't think that storyline was going to have too many legs. I thought he would just have like the one or two title matches and then he'd kind of get pushed back to mid card. But
Like the Night of Champions match between him and Jay was probably one of my picks for match of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't realize how good a worker Jay was.
Well, then you should probably watch this cage match between Owens and Roman.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to add that to your list, maybe like to your top 5, if not the best of the year. That was a really good match, and the ending kind of reminded me of the old Memphis match between Lawler and Austin Idol, where Lawler lost his hair. And if you remember the ending of that, this kind of reminded me of that to a much
That I
lesser
do
level.
remember. It was the handcuff to the cage.
Right.
Okay.
Handcuffed to the cage, and the whole reason that there was a cage was to keep other people out, and it didn't keep other people out. But that was an excellent match. And it didn't make... I mean, you could argue whether or not... I personally don't think it made Kevin Owens look like a punk. It basically proved his point. He was basically saying that Roman Reigns is a bitch. He can't win without his family. And in that match, he couldn't. So...
You mentioned old Memphis. Again, it's Bruce Pritchard.
Right.
Who's from that era.
Well, but he was more Houston than he was Memphis, though.
But he was probably buddy with Lawler back then.
No, I've heard him on interviews. He's not a fan of Jerry Jarrett. He thought, Jerry Jarrett was overrated and, he could he was too regional. But
I'll bring up a Jerry Jarrett thing. When Jerry Jarrett started TNA with his son, he did one thing Vince won't do, I don't think AEW's doing, Impact's doing, or any major company's doing. They provided health care. They provided health insurance for their workers. You don't hear that from Vince. You don't hear that from AEW.
Not yet, but if...
The unionization thing?
Yeah, I mean, if the president-elect brings Wang onto his cabinet and... Yang. Yang, Wang, whatever. Yeah, probably needs health care for both. But anyway, no, there's been talk that, Vince could be in trouble. But then again, Vince probably feels like, I've been sued by the government before, pal, I'll handle it, that kind of thing. And it's like, he thinks he's Teflon, he can get away with stuff, and he has gotten away with a lot of things, but don't know about this time.
About 10 years ago, I heard this as a statistic. You know how many cases Vince lost out of 163?
How many?
1.
The Jesse Ventura?
The Jesse Ventura. Yeah, that was it. That was the only thing he lost. He escaped the steroid trial, which Hogan turned evidence on him in '94.
Right.
And lo and behold, Hogan was brought back open arms back in the early 2000s.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's like you've probably seen it too. I have the quasi-shoot of McMahon that the company did itself, and JBL even said on there, he said, this is a man who went against the federal government and Ted Turner and told them both to go to hell. And pretty much that's how he kind of feels now. So
What did Vince say? I bought my competition, and that's what he did.
yeah.
But he is all about money. He doesn't care about the workers at all, or else he'd be letting them do the unionization. I think. Wouldn't you agree?
And the whole thing is like his little
Independent contractor
loophole.
thing?
Yeah, they're independent contractors. It's like either they are or they aren't. And then, but if they are independent contractors, you shouldn't be political. Where if one wrestler's husband goes to AEW and you have her throwing through tables every week, you shouldn't be trying to coerce people into going into Iraq or Afghanistan and getting shot at once a year around Christmas time.
Well, and you wouldn't be telling them, stop using Twitch, stop using Cameo, or can we own your real name?
That's a shame because a lot of those wrestlers do have some entertaining channels. I remember Zack Ryder's was fun to watch. I like them. I like Asuka's where she uses her real name. I liked Ruby Riot's. I loved her channel.
Yeah. Liv Morgan's got one.
Right.
Liv Morgan's got one now. Sarah Logan's got one. So even though she's not with the company anymore, but she does it with her husband.
Right.
Selena and Alistair. Then again, I haven't seen anything lately since the decree came from the mountaintop.
Right.
And and we all saw the Paige video where she got the call in the middle of her Twitch stream, the text where she broke down in tears.
Right.
And she even, and I quote, she said, "I broke my fucking neck for this company. Twice."
I agree, although there were some other videos that came out about her that she was lucky to have a damn job, too.
Yeah. You think
especially the one with the New Day I used to joke about with adding the
yeah.
Xavier Woods horn to it, but anyway,
yeah, I'm surprised she still had a job when those videos came out.
Well.
Then again, this is the same man who promoted his woman on Playboy back in the Attitude Era.
Right. Well, it's good marketing.
Yeah. But, well, we could do the top 10 right now if you want.
Well, we can get into...
What do you want to get into?
I guess with Impact or AEW, did you see any of AEW?
I watched Impact and I watched AEW. The thing that confused me about AEW is the MJF thing when he went up, and was it Ortiz or the other, or Santana who lost the relative?
All right.
I think it was Santana, right?
Yeah.
And when he did the heartfelt thing, I was like, that was a shoot. That was definitely a shoot, but it was confusing. Because he's supposed to be this dick heel,
Well, I think what will happen is, it may have been hard work, but they'll rewrite it where they'll make it a work shoot where he's just trying to manipulate them so he can help take over the inner circle and kick out Jericho.
Which, by the way, a lot of questions about Jericho's physical form came up after that show. Yeah. About how he doesn't look like he used to look. He's 50 years old. Not a lot of 50-year-olds look like Ken Shamrock. No,
and he did slim down a little bit from when he first came to AEW. Yep. I mean, he almost had a gut like the Sheik, Iron Sheik. But
well, even Chris Daniels, who looks phenomenal at 50. Yeah. Okay, and like I said, Ken Shamrock at 55, he's built like a brick shithouse.
Right. Yeah.
And
I actually met and interviewed years ago Dan Savern.
Yeah.
That guy was still kicking. When I interviewed him, he had just won a fight like 3 months prior to that.
Wow.
And he was. I even asked him, what his secret was, and he said in his own way, admittingly, a lot of people, big criticism with Dan Savern. He said in his own words, his style is not fan friendly, which means basically he protects himself and he works. But then of course when I asked him about that show in Kawasaki when he went up against Tarzan Goto and
I remember that.
Yeah, and he told me about. He said, like, Terry Funk kind of warned him. He said they don't do any AIDS testing with blood, so just be careful. And, and it's like, Goto, if you remember that match, took, like, a wine bottle and tried to cut Severn with it, and then Severn just basically was amateur, and and when I say amateur, I mean like amateur wrestling, actually, like Greco-Roman style, and just instead of he brought it with him a little bit with chairs, but then he eventually
Godo tried to go into business for himself, and so did Severn had to protect himself.
Right.
But we'll go back to the Omega segment was
Yeah.
And you even said it depends on who Omega works with. I watched the Okada match, the 64-minute match.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Right.
Again, it's Okada.
Right.
Okada's the best worker in Japan right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have something to say about that top 10 with that.
Okay.
But Impact, they're still building up for the Genesis Impact only plus streaming one that's going to be, I think, next week. Then you got Hard to Kill, which we're going to get Omega and Gallows and Anderson against the Machine Guns and Baltimore's own Rich Swann.
Right, which sounds more like a main event of an indie card here than really, I don't know, something you want for a monthly card.
Well, they're trying to build him as the bill collector, so I got a feeling he's going to be beating Rich Swann soon.
Okay, but...
And the person who should be beating Omega is Moose.
You think so?
Moose is a self-described Mr. Impact. He's the one flying that flag.
Okay, for Impact, but I mean, as far as beating... Okay, if he gets the Impact belt.
Yeah.
But for AEW, I don't know. A lot of people are saying that this is building for a certain Hangman Page.
I agree. Oh, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind seeing that whatsoever. The rematch of those two? Yeah.
Especially since they had all the drama of them breaking up, after the tag teams and all that, and it's just...
What do you consider their Mania? Would it be All Out? Or Double or Nothing?
The one that the very first card, what was that called?
Double or Nothing?
Double or Nothing. That's what I would consider their Mania.
Yeah. Do you want to make long-term booking for that until May?
We'll see. I guess it depends, what happens with their agreement with Impact. If they have anything going on with New Japan or even NWA.
Well, that's another thing because I just downloaded 3 episodes of Shockwave. I haven't watched them yet, but I've been noticing they've been using some Ring of Honor talent.
Right.
Mike Bennett's been on there. Maria Kanellis has been on there. I haven't watched Final Battle yet. That's another one I'm going to probably watch tonight. Jay Briscoe, a live Mike.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Dear God.
Oh, dear God is right. The articulate son of a bitch that he is. Because he was supposed to take on... I forgot who he was supposed to take on, but it never happened because of COVID.
Okay.
I think it was Cobb. And,
yeah, what happened to him? I mean, they built him up for that one match in Dynamite, and then you haven't seen him since.
he signed New Japan. He's in New Japan. He's with Ospreay's group called Empire.
Okay.
With some new Asian dude that I've never seen before called Great O Khan.
Alrighty.
Very 80s style booking from Gato. I don't understand that whatsoever.
Yeah.
And...
Maybe he's a Japanese Jim Cornette.
Well, no, because if you ever watch the New Japan's the road shows, to the big shows, it's all this is tag matches. It's like Teddy Long just booking all these.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I avoid those road shows, because I don't want to watch tag matches. I want to watch main event matches.
Okay.
Even though it's just sets up for feuds.
Right.
And right now, I even said this on the previous iteration of the show, during this whole COVID thing, Impact's coming out like Smile Like a Rose because you only heard one case. And that was Ethan Page. And he's going to be leaving soon.
As far as that goes, I wouldn't say Impact is,
Or New Japan.
Or New Japan, but Impact, please. Impact, it's like, if this were the pre-internet era, Impact would be the equivalent of a low-frequency UHF channel where you'd have to go to Radio Shack and get like 3 antennas and wire to be able to get that show. And then when you did it, you'd be like, man, why did I... You right after that, you go to Radio Shack and turn in your antenna and wire back. I am not impressed with that company. I mean, for one thing, their ring announcing crew has got to go. And I don't want to harp too much about the no audience, but I mean, other companies have overcome that. I mean...
Vince,
with the, Max Headroom TVs all around. Okay.
Which I think is a brilliant idea.
That was innovative. Well, that was clever. I wouldn't say innovative because he ripped that off the NBA. They did that. AEW's I actually like the best with that because what they did, they used the undercard. And what was cool about that with them is they don't just have what WWE did where they just had the development people and they all cheered the baby faces. They actually split the arena where left side were your heels, right side were your baby faces. I like that much better.
And they actually have somewhat of a crowd there now.
Right, yeah. I mean, you have maybe, 100 people in the upper deck of Daly's place.
Hers like 1,000.
Okay, big, alright, 1,000, yeah, okay, 1 decimal point. 1,000? Okay. For COVID era, so I guess that's a good crowd, but,
Well, when New Japan started back up, they did Kurgan Hall, no crowds. And they did nothing but the New Japan Cup there. When they start doing the finals, they start allowing crowds. And I think Japan's allowing 50% capacity.
Okay.
And it does add to the show.
Yeah.
It does add to the show. Especially when you get reactions from Jay White, who is the ultimate heel there. You actually hear them boo him. When the Japanese crowd boos you, which they're very respectful, you've done it. You're there.
I think times have changed over there, though. I mean, they're not like they used to. They're more like they're more like indie bingo hall audiences here now. I mean, I was watching an All Japan match the other day between the original Sheik and Abdullah the Butcher, and that was pretty much what we're used to from Japanese crowds. But
no, you still hear the ooh and ah.
Yeah.
But they pretty much sit on their hands and applaud when they want to applaud.
In that match, you pretty much only heard that when, those two lunatics were running through the crowd. They like to do, but
overall, I'd say the best show of the week was NXT.
Yeah.
Because it keeps your mouth watering for the Rhea Ripley Gonzalez match, which now it's going to be a last woman standing match. Mm-hmm. You're going to have Kyle O'Reilly and Finn again, which hopefully they don't break each other's jaws again.
Right.
Legit. I forgot what the other matches were off the top of my head. I think Io versus Mercedes.
Okay.
We're going to get Io versus Mercedes. Again, Hunter knows what he's fucking doing.
Well, let me ask you about one. You had mentioned, gosh, my name's Rhea Ripley, thank you.
Yeah. Best worker in the business right now.
How do you think they're booking her, though? Because, a lot of people think that WrestleMania match with Charlotte buried her for a good while.
Even she said that on Lillian Garcia's podcast. She thought they buried her. She even said that.
Right.
And it took her a while to get back out of it. And right now they're booking her as either her or Gonzalez is the monster in the company. Mm-hmm. And even though Gonzalez is taller. Because, like I said, I think they work well together. I think they work very well together.
Right.
Gonzalez is going to be a future star. Mm-hmm. If you saw War Games, which I did, they gave Gonzalez pinning the champ.
Okay.
So that's going to be the title. That's going to be a title match down the road.
Right.
Like they're giving her the Shayna Baszler treatment, where they're building her up. Mm-hmm. And how Shayna just left a path of broken bodies behind her.
Right.
And they're doing that with Rachel Gonzalez now, which, like I said, I think next to Rhea, they're the two best talents in the whole WWE right now.
Women-wise, or?
Women-wise, in general. I mean, look at your champions. Look at Roman. Good worker. Good, solid. He's been fantastic in the last 3 months.
Right.
Drew. What do you think about Drew?
I think Drew's done very well, that's one thing about any of the champions in any of these companies now. During this era where it's like you're asked to be the top, especially if you're the champion and you're the top babyface, you have to do it with no crowd reaction. You know, crowds in the stands. I think he's been fantastic. He's a great promo, and almost all of his matches are solid. You know, I think
the matches we had with Orton were great.
Yeah.
But the one with TLC against AJ, and granted, it's AJ, and AJ's phenomenal, to quote unquote.
Right.
But we've seen him come up through Ring of Honor, TNA. I've seen his stuff in New Japan. We both, like I said, we've seen him everywhere, and he's one of the best workers in anywhere. And this match was beneath him, I think.
It could be just a clash of styles, too. Not everybody has good ring chemistry together, though, but...
Because Styles can work with anybody.
Yeah.
Styles can work, despite his size, because he's not the big guy, you know? He's like a Daniel Bryan. He's I don't want to say B plus. I don't want to say B plus, but he's that body type. Mm-hmm. With Daniel Bryan, it was organic. Vince couldn't turn away from it.
Right.
And that's why he got the push he got.
Plus, Daniel Bryan actually is a ring general. I mean, a lot of them, I think they probably thought that he was just like a hand, but I mean, he kind of reminds me a lot of Dean Malenko in a way, where it's like, yeah, he's not a big pituitary case like Drew or Roman or anybody like that. But I mean, he could probably wrestle for the Olympics now. I mean, he's ridiculous. I mean, I know you've seen him. I've seen him live in Ring of Honor when he was the American Dragon. I mean, he was ridiculous. But.
Yep. You were go back real quick to the Impact. You said the announced team. Madison Rain's gone. Her contract went up. She did not resign. She's retired from wrestling entirely. She got a day job to be closer to her daughter. Who's going to replace him? We don't know. Callis' contract is up with Impact. With Anthem, there's rumors that he might jump ship entirely. To be with just Omega's mouthpiece. And be a manager. Be the Cyrus, or what was his other name? What was his name in WWE?
I forget.
Jackal.
The Jackal,
Jackal. And he could be that again. I mean, and let D'Amore to handle the whole show. Mm-hmm. D'Amore's working with what he has.
Yeah.
Which isn't much.
No, it's the old chicken salad versus chicken shit argument for sure. Callis, you know what I would like to see him do, even though he'll probably get heat for rehashing an angle, but younger fans might not remember. If somehow he can work an angle, if he goes to AEW and they write a storyline where he's part of TNT.
Well, he was part of TNN.
Right. The network is not happy.
Yeah, the network is all...
And have a feud with him, maybe have a feud with him and Shivani. It's like, Shivani, I had enough of your crap. I talked to the network execs. They want you out of here, you know.
Or, since Khan has been on camera on Impact, would you want to see Khan as a character on AEW?
No.
You want him to be the next Vince?
No.
Or the next Bischoff?
No, that's one of the few things that AEW has consistently done right, where they haven't had an online, an on-screen authority figure.
The best thing I saw on AEW, and it was also the weirdest thing on AEW, was Sheeta and Abaddon. When the bite. Yeah. Which they actually did, they did it great. They did it right compared to what we saw with Becky and Shayna earlier this year.
Right.
Which, the effects were great. The blood effects were great. I don't know where this is going to go now.
Well, let's see. Mila Jovovich is doing a new movie. We might see those two co-star with her in the next Resident Evil.
Well, it's like I said.
See a zombie Sheeta, maybe. I don't know. It's
like I said, I've always drawn to dark characters. Like the Rosemary's out there, the Sue Youngs, Jake Roberts, Ravens, Undertaker, all that. Yeah. Abaddon is unique.
It's an original gimmick.
Yeah, she's the living dead girl.
Right.
There's videos out there I've watched over the weekend Nobody knows who this girl is. No, there's not one iota of real information on her whatsoever. Her name's not on anywhere online. She's a ghost.
Well, there was some information about her. She probably pulled it off.
Yeah, but the thing is, they don't know where she's from, do not know her real name, and I think that's better off. It adds to the mystique.
Right, kind of like what he said with the Ultimate Warrior, where it's like, if you say he's from a certain city, it pulls, with that character, it's like if you say he's part from unknown, he's batshit crazy, you know, it makes it more believable, But
like I said, if they do this cross-promotional thing, wouldn't you like to see her against either Su Yung or Rosemary?
Or, better yet, join with them and have your buddy, the Sinister Minister manager.
Oh, yeah, they brought him back. During the whole Johnny Bravo thing, he had the best line I ever heard in my life. He says, "Well, I'm innocent as a babe, and they found an angel." Even I don't believe that one.
Right.
He said that, I busted out laughing. He also is one of the best things on Impact. Because he knows the gift of gab. He knows how to sell. He knows how to sell it verbally. He should have. Too bad he's busy doing his karaoke business down in Florida. Well, because I would like to see him in WWE. Who would you like to see him manage in WWE?
WWE.
Because I asked him this on when I interviewed him on my old show.
I don't know. I mean, I would think somewhere, maybe somebody like Bray Wyatt. I don't know about actually with Bray Wyatt, because I don't think that would mesh with the storyline. But, I mean, somebody that friggin' creepy, though. I mean, they'd have to retool somebody and make them, like another, some type of monster type gimmick, though, I would say.
Well, you know what name he gave us?
What?
Aleister Black.
That would probably work with him.
But they're burying him right now because of Selena Vega. Mm-hmm. When was the last time you saw Aleister on television? 2 months? 2 months?
At least.
He's sitting at home earning a paycheck. Don't mind doing that, but I'd like to see him work. I think the guy was phenomenal. And I looked up his Tommy End stuff when he was on the Indies, and the boy was a buzzsaw.
Well, his matches are good. I'm not a fan of his gimmick per se. His promos just reminded me too much of Raven. I thought it was
very stiff and wooden.
Not just that, but I mean, just basically, I mean, it looked like pre WWE owned ECW. It looked like the stuff Raven would do on Hardcore TV on their public access channel, wherever they had that show.
Who was the head of creative from Raw during then?
Right, yeah, Heyman.
It was Heyman, and that's a Heyman trope.
Mm-hmm.
It was like what works for one guy may not work for another guy.
Right, and because he tried to do that with CM Punk and OVW and all too, but
you like you say, you have your problems with Impact. I'll still watch it because it's there, and I like the business. And I like watching stuff about the business or watching shows with the business, okay?
Well, I mean, flies on shit might be there, too. That doesn't mean I have to watch it or smell it. I might scrape it off on shoe or tell you to scrape it off yours like you never do when you come in here.
The last great, and I mean 5-star Meltzer match I saw from that company, both teams are now in AEW, is LAX versus the Luchas. That was fantastic. Mm-hmm. When they had crowds.
Right.
I mean, I think they had that pay-per-view match in Canada before COVID hit, way before COVID hit. That was, I think, last year. Mm-hmm. And Santana Ortiz are great. The Lucha Brothers are great. It's like two great tastes great together. Mm-hmm. And that was the last time I've actually seen 5-star matches from Impact.
Yeah.
I watched Tuesdays, which was a clip show. It was the best of. Guess who they didn't mention at all on this clip show?
Oh.
Tessa Blanchard. The first female to hold their men's world title.
Well, I mean, we talked about this off of the air. It could be a legal reason for that, too.
Well, because she got fired.
Right.
She got fired in July because she was stuck in Mexico and she didn't want to give up the title.
Mm.
And AEW turned her down.
Right.
And from what I heard, when she was there trying out, she was going out with Ricochet at the time. Her and Ricochet had a very public fight at the Performance Center, which even Hunter and I heard Vince heard. Mm. They think she is a problem child.
Oh, I know a lot of the women from the NWA had issues with her. I know Allison Kay had said a few times on Twitter, she called her out. And when there was that big controversy, Allison Kay was the one that first called her out.
About when she said the racial slur?
Yep.
Okay. But, and I figured AEW would be perfect because her father's there.
Yeah.
And then again, back in the day, her father was the problem child. Mm-hmm. I heard he was hard to work with back then. And all kinds of things. And apple meets tree.
Right. And ultimately, it was his undoing because, I mean...
When was the last time you heard him between then and now?
Well, I was kind of surprised he came back because I had heard... Before he came to AEW, I had heard that he had found God and he was a preacher.
He is. He actually goes to prisons and preaches to inmates. Mm. Him and DiBiase.
Right.
But like I said, the clip show, they didn't mention it. They gave out their year in awards. The match of the year is coming out this Tuesday.
Yeah.
If it's not Sammy and Tessa, I'll be disappointed. Because Sammy... Again, I like Sammy Callahan, the wrestler.
You're talking about Impact. So
Impact, yeah.
Okay.
I like Sammy Callahan, the wrestler. I hate Sammy Johnson, the man.
Yeah.
Because I know what kind of person he is.
Right.
Because I'm good friends with his ex-wife.
Mm.
Yeah. Sammy Callahan, the wrestler, is a good worker.
Yeah.
In CZW, him and Adam Cole brought the house down. Mm. Again, it's Adam Cole.
Right.
Baby.
Well, I remember seeing a match on MLW as a loser league town between Callahan and Vance Warner. Mm-hmm. And at the time, Jim Cornette was on commentary for MLW. And while I think it was a shoot between him and Callahan, because Callahan at the beginning actually spat water on Cornette, and he was just foaming at the mouth throughout the match. He's like saying, I'll pay Vance Warner $300 if he cripples that son of a bitch. You know, he was going off.
That was a shoot. That was a shoot. That was a shoot from what I understand.
Yeah.
Well, even Cornette went off on his own podcast about Callahan. Mm-hmm. He thinks he's a garbage wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the hacker gimmick, which they were trying in NXT when he was there, with the Solomon Crow gimmick, a name. It didn't. I don't know why they dropped the ball on him there. I don't know why.
It could have been him. He could have been some behind the scenes stuff.
Some chicanery going on.
Yeah.
This is why Jessica Havoc has a job there, because she has a relationship with Sammy. You heard the story how she got yanked out in the middle of her tryouts at the Performance Center. Have you?
Fresh my memory.
Apparently, some homophobic tweets she made years ago came back to haunt her, and she was trying out at the Performance Center. Hunter stopped her in mid-match and escorted her out of the building. Mm. In a company that's full of degenerates, I mean, they're not angels.
No.
None of them are angels, because Orton has a track record behind the scenes of failing drug test, bad behavior. He shits on the dirt. He shits on people like Meltzer.
Well,
I mean,
I would probably agree with Orton about Meltzer on a lot of things, but I mean, yeah, WWE has had a checkered past. I mean, rest in peace, Pat Patterson, but allegedly he sexually assaulted some of the wrestlers there. I mean, Roddy Piper, I think, had a big beef with him for a long time because of that. Mm-hmm.
they got rid of RVD because he got caught with weed in his car. It's RVD.
Yeah.
With Sabu. That's why Sabu and RVD got let go.
Right.
And RVD was WWE champion at the time. This is after he beat Cena.
Yeah.
That's petty shit. It's pitiful. That's just petty shit. I mean, that's just petty.
Well, it's because it made the news. I mean, it's one thing if they get caught, but if it makes mainstream news, kind of like with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Iron Sheik,
yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the NFL has a saying, you know, it's like you have to defend the shield. When their players act like knuckleheads and it brings bad news, you know, negative national attention or whatever, usually there's consequences because of that. And same thing here.
But going back to the whole Twitch thing, I mean, you fire a woman who's trying to earn her keep, did nothing wrong, in my opinion, did nothing wrong. She did nothing wrong, but because she went and shut down and her third party, you're going to get rid of her. You made her a message. You made her, she's a message to the rest of the locker room.
And like you said before, it's greed.
Yeah.
Vince, see, first of all, I'm sure Kevin Dunn or Triple H or Stephanie or somebody had to explain to him what Twitch was to begin with, okay? He probably thought before that it was just something that Undertaker did before he made his comeback in a match, okay?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, he probably equates it to, oh yeah, it's kind of like when Sergeant Slaughter wanted the Hasbro and had his own action figure without my consent or getting it through LGN, which I had a... That's what he thinks. It's wrestlers making money and he's not getting a cut.
These guys are not making the money anywhere because of COVID right now because they can't do the road money. They're not getting the merch money. I mean, you're doing this to supplement the missing income. And what's wrong with that?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But I mean, you say that. I mean, that's more. I'd say that applies more to the indies. The WWE. I mean, their house shows weren't nearly what they used to be. Okay. They would maybe do like a couple, or they would have like a tour or something like that. And they meant nothing. I mean, you and I remember when it used to be every month. Mm-hmm. It would be WWE/F. Mm-hmm. It would be NWA/WCW.
With the AWA?
AWA, well, I'm talking about locally for us. But AWA, yeah, the same thing, you know, it's like once a month. Mm-hmm. You don't have that anymore. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things. You were talking before about Mitchell with his gift of gab. Wrestlers can't create their own promos anymore. They're not trusted with that.
It's heavily scripted.
Heavily scripted. And, I mean, and the great example of that was on this past week of SmackDown, between the women's match. It was an elimination. It was an actual three-way dance style as opposed to the usual
clusterfuck, yeah.
Yeah. And they had these stupid times going back and forth where I know one of my favorite YouTubers, Simon Miller in What Culture, had it. Once in a while he has like a segment within his segment called Nobody Talks Like That, and he'll say, you know, he'll quote something that somebody said on Raw or SmackDown that was really stupid, and you know. Mm-hmm.
Well, even Cornette said, you're echoing what Cornette again. Mm-hmm. Cornette said, nobody knows how to talk. Everybody's had a script. Ambrose, Moxley, on the Jericho podcast said about this.
Yeah.
I mean, you get handed script after script after script to read from these writers. AEW, I think they're more freewheeling with their stuff a little bit.
Right.
I think, because I don't know who's writing their promos. It could be one of the guys, one of the boys, or they're writing their own shit. I don't know. Impact, it's D'Amore and Callis. I'll tell you that right now. It stops with them. New Japan, they just give you live mic and say whatever the fuck you want to say.
Right. And probably in the territory days, from what I get from listening to Cornette and the other people, pretty much it seemed it's like the wrestlers were given bullet points. Mm-hmm. It'd be Bill Watts or Dusty Rhodes or whoever would say, all right, Chris, look, say what you want, but listen, I want you to get your cage match with Rick over. I want you to call him this. I want you to say this about his mom. And I want you to say this about the town he's from, and you give him like a list of things, and then you would be able to create around that.
And my other pet peeve of this week was the 6-man street fight match on Raw, which they act like a regulation tag match. If it's no rules, how come you're doing tags? Okay? Mm-hmm. They had a street fight match on NXT with the tag titles. That was way better, and it was more violent. Because you had Dane Maverick versus Lorcan and Birch. And they actually used the weapons around the ring. They didn't do shit on Raw.
No. No.
They didn't. I mean, it looked like a regulation 6-man tag.
Right. Well, speaking of tags, since you said you were a drunken idiot during SmackDown, you probably don't remember this. But during the women's 3-way bout for the tag belt, did you remember what Bianca Belair did with Sasha with her ponytail? No. Okay. There was a spot where Sasha was, I forget who she was against. It might have been against, who was the heel team in? Oh, either Bayley or Carmella. And apparently she was like getting double teamed. Bianca Belair did this thing with her 20-foot long ponytail, handed it to Sasha, and used it as a rope to pull her back to the corner. Damn. To tag her. Damn. Which was innovative, but except for one thing. Isn't touching any body part considered a tag? I mean, you've seen hair too. I would think so. I mean, if you can smack somebody on the shoulder to tag yourself in, why wouldn't that be considered a tag? It's like, here, Sasha, here's my ponytail. She should already be tagged in. She has used it as a weapon because I saw it against Baszler in NXT where she actually cut Baszler open on her side with the ponytail. Okay, yeah, it could be a weapon, but to me, I think it would be freaking stupid. Yeah. Because I mean, if that was those matches were a shoot, all a girl would have to do is, I mean, you hear like Naomi and these other girls say, "I'm gonna pluck this bitch bald." I mean, that's what I would have her do. I'd yank that Mr. Ray's hair weave off her head, and then I'd even use it as a weapon. I'd choke her with it like a chain. I mean, it's. And with the tag titles. Yeah. I'm glad it's off Nia and Shayna. Yeah. Nia needs to go away. She hurting girls left and right. I heard she hurt Mandy Rose. Mm-hmm. We all saw what she did with Kari earlier this year. It gave her a concussion. Cut her open. Her head open on those steps. Gave her a concussion. She's not safe to work with. She's going to kill somebody. I'm not kidding. She's going to kill somebody. And there is controversy, I mean, about Nyla Rose in AEW. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if it's the same argument. You don't see Nyla Rose that often. I'm wondering if that's the reason why. Is that because of the Britt Baker thing? Britt Baker or just in general? I mean, you don't... Was it her who landed wrong on Britt Baker's leg? I believe it was. Yes, okay. Now, it put Britt Baker out for 6 months. I mean... Something like that, okay, that's an accident. Yeah. I'm talking about actually being too stiff with somebody, Well, going back to remember Sexy Star. Yeah. What she did to Rosemary. Mm-hmm. She went into business for herself and did a shoot on Rosemary and just basically popped her arm out of the socket. Right. And I read Rosemary's tweet. That wasn't her or Courtney. That was Heather. That's her real name, Heather. Right. Heather went on a rant on Twitter about Sexy Star. Yeah. And I agree with her wholeheartedly. And when I met Rosemary at an MCW show a couple of years ago, I even said, "How's the arm?" She says, "Feels better." I says, "Remember, payback, karma's a bitch." And he says, "I hope so." Mm. There's bitter. You haven't heard from Sexy Star since then. Right. And even Cody Rhodes said on Twitter, "She's not allowed in your locker room. I'm in." Right. And I agree. I mean, if she's doing... I think she was a former boxer or MMA girl herself. Right. And let her go to MMA. Get her ass kicked by Cyborg. Or by Amanda Nunes. All right. But Nia Jax needs to go. I don't care about her family. I don't care about her dynasty. She needs to go. She needs to go get trained properly. I'm kind of, well, I guess maybe because he's in Raw, I'm kind of surprised he's not tied into this Roman Reigns storyline, because she's in that same family.
She is part of is she part of Rock's family or part of Roman's family?
Well, they're both together.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, I think she's related more to Rock, but still.
But, and I wanted to talk about the best big girl in the best big. Nyla Rose she's not bad. I mean, I think that was just an accident. Maybe because of COVID, you haven't seen her that much.
And it's kind of like they paired her with Vicky Guerrero, which I think was great. I mean,
because Nyla can't talk,
right? And you want to talk about someone who can cut an annoying heel promo,
and she's a heat-seeking missile.
Oh yeah. Maybe they're saving those two for when they do get crowds, because I mean they could start some riots there. I mean,
yeah, like Dudley Boy type riots.
Yeah.
And I will say this: the best big girl in the business right now, and I'm going back to Impact, is Jessica Havoc.
Okay.
She has a proven track record of being safe to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not heard one complaint about her. And I've met her. She's a sweetheart of a girl. Mm-hmm. We even talked about her tattoo work. I'll take her back to the days of like FMW, which is Sharkazuka.
Right.
And come back to Toyota. Two big girls who were safe to work with.
Well, that's the thing is, big girls is kind of a niche there, because face it, for the most part, a lot of the women look like fitness models or exotic dancers. They're not made to be, big hosses,
Like Kong.
Right.
I think Kong was the best one of the bunch.
Kong was really good.
And too bad I think Chloe got canceled.
Right.
So you might be seeing her coming back soon.
Right.
But she was great for that brief stint in WWE when she was Karma until she became pregnant. Mm-hmm. She was great. Her and Gail Kim had barn burners in Impact.
Right.
I saw her stuff with Shimmer against Sarah DeRay. She's a good worker.
By the way you keep talking about Impact, I want you to split some of that Dixie Carter money with me.
There were rumors going around for the longest time that she was going to work for Vince.
Who?
Dixie.
Oh, Lord.
Because she was a good heel, kind of. She was the heel bitch company owner.
Her promos sounded a lot like Sable. I don't know, maybe if she paraded around in the white panties, supposedly.
Yeah. And she sold a table spot real well when the Dudleys put her through a table.
Okay, well, so can Lana. What's your point? I mean...
But I hate to sound sexist, and I really hate to sound sexist. Women don't know how to promote, operate a wrestling company. It's a proven track record of her and Baba's widow. Stephanie McMahon is the only one right now.
No, Stephanie knows about corporate marketing, just in general. I don't think she really knows about wrestling, though. Mm-hmm. Whereas there is one company that hopefully, after things get straightened out with COVID, they'll get more exposure. Mission Pro, run by Thunder Rosa. I think that it's going to be a good company. Well,
you got Allison Danger running Shimmer.
I like Shimmer too.
Shimmer's good. I don't know who's running Shine. I think that was Sapolsky.
Although here's the thing with Shimmer, they have good matches, but they really don't know how to promote. I mean, granted, okay, there's so many things you can do with a shoestring budget, but I don't know. Some of their promos are pretty dry. I mean, I liked the one announcer. They had Portia Perez, who was one of their tag team champion for a while.
Canadian Ninjas.
Yep. But even her stuff was kind of dry. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have to work on that stuff.
And they should. All it is DVD releases, and they shoot a bunch for DVD.
Right.
They have never gone digital. They never gone online.
Again, that could be financial too. I mean, they had
every rinky-dink promotion out there has a online thing.
The only Shimmer matches I've had, and you've probably seen some, like maybe in some indie cards in Philly, but the only Shimmer matches I've seen outside of that Moose's Lodge, Elf's Lodge, whatever that is.
In Berwyn.
In Berwyn. Fenguli fans would know it's Berwyn, but it was one of the WrestleMania weekends, I think it was when they had it in
Jersey.
They had a really good run-in match. I forget who was in. Well, it was the ladies there, but
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
And that's when they had their Heart of Shimmer tournament, I think. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the girls of that time are now working for either AEW, Impact, or WWE.
Right.
Because Mercedes was there, Shayna was there at the time. Where are they at? And Mercedes made her comeback Wednesday night, which, thank fucking God, she's away from Retribution.
Yeah.
Oh God, you want to talk about that?
Well, let's talk about what a crazy and not so pleasant year 2020 was in general for wrestling, okay? I mean, Retribution was definitely one of the things, and partially because that angle just went nowhere. It looked like they were trying to build it up there, like, okay, well, what do we do next? And it's like, okay, let's adjust this, and then, great, let's go with this, and Vince said, that sucks, pal, and then rips it up at the last minute.
Which I've been hearing he's been doing a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like they were kind of like parroting ISIS. Or
NXT.
not ISIS. What was Antifa?
Yeah.
That's what it looked a lot like, especially since
With the hoods and all that, yeah.
and the vandalism and
When the vandalism was also, remember when Nexus debuted? And they beat up Cena and tore up the ring.
right.
And they beat up Justin Roberts. Which, I heard Roberts' interview about that. They I forgot who did it, but somebody went shoot on him. But it could have been Ryback, it could have been Daniel, it could have been Bray. Because that was all part of that group.
Right.
But Retribution came in as, I thought it was a great idea. They don't just went over like a wet fart.
Yeah.
The other thing, Bray was running so hot. So hot. And I love the gimmick. Even adding Alexa to it, and Alexa being her. It's almost like having Joker and Harley.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'm loving the new Alexa Bliss character. I'm really loving it. It's a nice evolution to. You just put new paint on an old house almost.
Yeah.
And I hope they evolve this better. And if they're letting Bray still be his own creative, I can't wait to see what the next step is.
I have a feeling Pritchard's interfering and it's going to turn into a turd.
What do you think the next iteration is going to be? Because she saw that promo she did Monday night.
Yeah. Probably something else. I mean, something he had on the back burner. Probably a new mask or something.
Hopefully it's not another doink.
No.
We not have him as a clown.
Right.
Because Vince, what about that thing from It?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I could see Vince doing that.
You could even see where she becomes the Fiend. Or Sister Abigail.
Yeah. The thing is, since they're now promoting them as baby faces, she could be his weakness, and as Orton said, she could be the damsel in distress that the Fiend has to rescue. And the way the swing set I love, the childlike attitude she has, the sinister, mischievous, I love it. I love how she's dressing. I mean, it's just the whole package is just pretty good. But like I said, I watched TLC, and you can see Pritchard all over this.
Right. And another thing with her, she's being used sparingly in this, though. She's even come out on Twitter saying, "Well, I thought I was doing all right. Now all of a sudden they're not using me on the pay-per-view. Why not? It's
Well, she took some time off. She had this time off scheduled.
No, but I mean, when this whole thing started with her and Bray, though, this was after that.
Because I liked the Firefly Funhouse with those two, and the whole tongue thing just kind of like, wow, that's new. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like know where this is going. I like the contacts. That and Edge are the standouts of this year. Maybe the Rhea
for that company,
yeah, and maybe Rhea and Charlotte, the match that was maybe a match of the year candidate for that company.
Yeah,
and could you imagine if COVID didn't happen and that happened in front of a crowd?
Right. I'd say for like the first half of the year, Drew may have been a standout, and then Roman late this year. I mean, late.
And the thing is, you have Heyman there, who's an excellent talker, not saying anything. You got Roman doing the promos. Why is he there then?
Suffering succotash, you know.
Yeah. Why is he there? Because Pritchard has a hard on burying him, son of a bitch?
Yeah.
Heyman's a great promo guy. He can sell his shit anywhere. I don't understand. I just don't.
Because he's crossed with them too many times, and they're probably the point of, okay, let's not give Heyman any rope at all, you know.
Oh, they're going to give it to him to hang himself.
Right.
But he's the only manager there now, I think.
Right.
The manager type character. He's what's a special counsel?
Right, and that might be Vince's doing now, because, you know, he has certain words he doesn't like to use.
Like hospital.
Medical
facility.
Or belt, or strap, or championship.
Title,
right. Any of those.
Or wrestler.
Yeah.
Which is the huge dirty word to him.
Or ratings, lately.
Yes. Well, you saw the ratings, and I saw the ratings. They drew 4 million viewers last night.
Again, that was because of Fox, and they let in with football. That's why.
Where AEW is beating Raw on the demographics.
Mm-hmm.
Because Raw, I think, what was it, a 1.6 Monday night?
Right.
That's bad compared to the Attitude Era where they're doing 4s and 5s.
But, well, let me say this. To really sound like a grumpy old man, I will say the demographics you're referring to, 18 to 49, I'd say between 18 and 30, that demographic is also popular with hip-hop music with auto-tune. That doesn't mean that it's good shit, you know?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So it's...
Yeah. You're not far from that there.
No.
Damn. That's why Jericho called himself the demo god?
Yeah. Yeah, he's starting to look like the demo gourd, but anyway. Now, actually, I like Jericho, but that's another thing with him. Another thing I agree with Cornette about Jericho. Jericho he should be teaching these AEW guys how to wrestle, how to promo, and all that. Mm-hmm. Instead, he wants to fit in with them and do their
He must be the cool uncle.
Yeah, he wants to be an older buck. Mm-hmm. He wants to fit in with MJF. And, I mean, MJF... You were talking about it before about Abaddon, somebody protecting her character. What about him?
He is the best heel, period, any company. What was it, the tweet I showed you where he laughed at?
Yeah.
I forgot, something about Orange Cassidy, and the tweet went, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, oh yeah, he said, somebody said you beat up my kid's favorite wrestler or something like that. Yeah.
And he loves trolling the trolls.
Right.
He loves trolling the trolls. And hats off to him. Hats off. Even though there was that stutter step with the steak dinner.
Yeah. Well, and it's so hard to be a heel now. Because most heels
The cool heels.
Yeah. And it's kind of like most heels suffer from Steve Austin or Road Warrior syndrome. You try to make them a heel by making them just be mean and sadistic and all that. But there are people who actually... like when wrestlers be mean and sadistic to other wrestlers.
Looking at you, NWO.
Exactly, yeah. And they wound up selling, it was them and Austin 316 neck and neck and t-shirt sales. So, I mean...
Or even, I'll even say the modern day NWO, the Bullet Club, when they were in Ring of Honor, they were supposed to be the heels, but they're getting cheered.
Yeah.
And their shirts were selling everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And I have a feeling that's what this interpromotional thing with AEW... Bret Hart and New Japan is doing, so...
Well, did you hear what Omega's calling the new faction?
What?
The Super Elite.
Ugh.
Of him, Gallows, and Anderson.
Really?
Yep. I'm not kidding.
Well, I guess they can't use Bullet Club, because I guess the Tonga family will sue for that, I guess.
I don't know who owns... I think that's New Japan as a whole.
Yeah.
And they're owned by Bushido Road, which is... I don't know what they do, so...
Yeah. Super Elite, yeah.
And,
Yeah, that'll sell some T-shirts at Hot Topics, or as Shivani would say, yeah, that'll put a few butts in the seats. Yeah.
yeah. Well, like I said, another one of my favorite promotions is New Japan, and I've been watching a lot of it. And I even introduced you to Suzuki.
Yeah.
There's a kid there named Shingo, who remind you a lot of a 30-year-old Suzuki.
Okay.
He should have been on that. We're going to talk about that top 10. He should have been on that list than Suzuki. Okada or Naito than Suzuki.
Well, that might be for next year's list. But
Yeah.
Yeah. We've seen several lists. Chris, you and I were talking about a list, What Culture, and you said Cultaholic did, but it gets did a similar one. One I saw was What Culture with Simon Miller. He gave a top 10 list where he had Suzuki as number 10.
Granted, he is a great worker. He's a psychotic human being.
Right.
They use him to make children behave.
Right.
Because better behave or Manhura will come and get you.
And I mean, they had the list was kind of AEW centric, including their number one choice, Moxley. But they also listed Hangman Page. They listed Kenny Overrated. They also listed several WWE, which I was surprised at. They listed Drew. They listed
Roman.
Roman, yes. Bailey and Sasha.
Which, again, I think they also had candidate match of the year. Those two, the payoff match.
Yeah.
At Hell in a Cell. I think their Hell in a Cell match was better than the guys.
Yeah, I would agree.
Going back to some of the names on there, you said Mox. Mox is a good worker.
Yeah, he is. He's a great promo. He's a good hardcore guy. I don't think he's the best ring technician, but that's not what you have him in there. He's basically...
Well, where did he cut his teeth in? His CZW.
Right.
He was doing death matches there.
He's trying to bring them back to AEW, but...
Yeah.
I mean, especially that one match that was held here against...
Which surprised the living shit out of me because of the rules in this state.
It surprised me in a way, but it didn't surprise me because it just showed how stupid the Young Bucks are.
Do you think it was them booking?
Yeah.
Oh, they admitted they booked that match?
Oh, I don't know they admit it, but it wouldn't surprise me, you know.
Or it was just...
Because, I mean, I would think Cody would have known better than that, you know, but Arn Anderson would have probably told him too. He's like... Because, I mean, I remember going to an NWA card and had a First Blood match between Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch, and Dusty wound up losing, he did bleed. That was a stipulation of the match, but, he immediately stopped it. It wasn't a case where he bled and Dick Murdoch kept stomping his head and ringing the bell and all that kind of stuff. It just instantly ended as soon as the blood, Lou Levy had his heart attack and then they went to the next match.
Well, remember back in '88 when Luger had that scratch on his head?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I have a feeling now they kind of worked that into the angle. And I remember an independent card that you and I went to. It was like, I think Axel.
It was Axel, yeah.
He picked up on how we hated Lou Levy and all that stuff, and they actually got him to interfere in matches.
Yep, I remember that, yeah.
Remember there was a tag match, I think it was Sandman and the Meanie against two other guys, and the guy actually took away Sandman's cane and they wound up losing because of it. And
were you there the night Axel did that shoot promo? Where he was busted open, his face was bloody, and he said, "Put the kids away, I'm going to say," and he went straight shoot on Lou Levy.
Right.
And I remember when we had the petition, which went nowhere.
Yeah.
And I was called in the ring, and actually, what did I...
You're welcome for that.
Yeah. And what did I say to Lou Levy on mic? I said, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
And he said, and even Axel said, "That's from the fans." And that's a shoot. This is when ECW was running so goddamn hot right now.
Oh,
at the time.
Yeah.
And they wanted that alternative. They didn't want the same cookie cutter that MCW and MEWF are giving you.
Right.
And no fault of Danny. He's working with what he's working with. And he's drawing close to 1,000 people per show now.
Well, before COVID.
Before COVID. And I'm not... Maybe because I've gone to CZW so many times and I'm used to that style. When I go back to seeing those, it's like I'm going back in time and I don't want to go back in time.
Yeah, I could see that.
And granted, I know half the workers there because they work for DJ or they work for Lauderdale and GCW, or they go work other promotions.
Well, wrestling's like a lot of entertainment. Like, I don't know, like a lot of musicians will say this. I worked in DJs in nightclub. I was DJed at a few nightclubs. They'll say the same thing. You got to know your audience.
Yep.
MCW, MEWF, they're more of an older traditional, bring the kids,
they're family friendly.
Right.
Where CZW is like, fuck your rules, we'll throw whatever we want out there.
Well, it's what it used to be. It's not as much.
They still have their one hardcore match, like they used to when we used to go to the shows in Smyrna. Where even you said back in the early days, it's an indie show until they pull that one hardcore match out.
Pretty much. And I remember CZW, after they were catching flack from various athletic commissions, they started doing this thing called Underground, where they went to a quote-unquote secret location, kind of like the Raw Underground we see recently, except all it was cameras in the back, and they had like a separate ring set up where they brought out their light tubes and toys.
That was at the ECW Arena, I remember that,
yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Gage was their champion.
Speaking of the ECW Arena, we worked on another podcast where we mentioned about that. Have you heard anything new about?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. I'm gonna ask a friend of mine tonight who covers that area in the dirt sheets. I'm gonna see what he says. Last time I heard, it needs $100,000 to operate.
Right. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there was a story actually put out by MLW that the building many fans know in Philadelphia as the ECW Arena, also known as Viking Hall, also known as 2300 Arena, New Alhambra, whatever. They are having financial difficulties because they are not able to book any events, wrestling or otherwise. And there was an effort to have kind of a online funding campaign. I'm not sure if it was actually Kickstarter, but a lot of people say Kickstarter because it's like saying Coke for cola,
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think it's Kickstarter also.
Right. So.
But it's a sign of the times, what we live in now. We've been to that building many times.
Right.
Even before the renovations. I even worked merchandising tables for CZW shows. I got to walk around backstage.
Well, hell, you're old enough. You probably went to bingo matches before the wrestling back in the day when it was Eastern, but now.
No, when I was working with another friend of mine and we set up merchandise tables there, I got to walk through that building. It is a shithole. Okay? Mm-hmm. They did the renovations. When they did the renovations, when me and another buddy went up, I didn't recognize the building inside.
Right.
It was completely redone, revamped, everything. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised at how this building looked like.
Right.
I still remember in that building, I got shot on by Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Eddie Kingston's still one of the best promo guys in the business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of his in-ring work. Sorta, kinda. He's not a Luthez.
He talks himself into matches. I would agree.
He's not a Luthez.
Yeah.
He's not a Ric Flair. Hell, he's not even Hogan. But he's a good promo guy, and they should keep him as a promo guy.
Right.
Because
I think he's all right as a brawler. That's the whole thing. He's good for guys like Moxley or like his recent feud. Matches with Pac, I think, would be good. Mm-hmm. Stick him with, like, I don't know, like Best Friends or the Young Bucks or Pockets,
Well, he didn't do much in NWA when he was there.
He was more in a tag team, but I think they were starting to build. That's a shame about a lot of angles in the NWA. They were building onto some good stuff, especially with Aldis and the villain. But
that's another thing. Seeing the NWA and Tony Khan giving them work. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for Aldis to show up. because you know it's going to happen. And I would like to see them reach out to Ring of Honor. Because right now I'm hearing Ring of Honor's having financial trouble because of the COVID thing. They are shooting empty arena shows at UMBC.
Right.
They're calling it the Bubble.
Well, I think they were getting ready to do a big program with Ring of Honor between Skrull and Aldis, and we're looking at in our studio. Yeah, we have a poster from the Free Enterprise. It was a free show that Ring of Honor did that they sold as a pay-per-view everywhere else, but here in the Baltimore area, you just ordered your tickets and get in for free. And I think they were building up to something with that. And I think with all this, I think what they should do, if they're going to have Kenny Omega be like Pokemon and collect all the belts like Pokemon, go after Aldis' NWA belt. Since
Like even Rusha after the Ring of Honor title.
Right.
Like, have every belt but go to Vince and get theirs, New Japan, from what I'm hearing, the Forbidden Door might be open.
Maybe. Although I could see it backfiring and kind of being like that lame angle that Jerry Lawler said where he was the
AWA champ?
Yeah, he was the undisputed champion because he had, he had Texas's belt, he had Memphis's belt, and he had the AWA. So, yeah.
And we all saw that match with Kerry Von Erich. Which Kerry, you know the true story about that?
I do.
About how he cut his arm?
Yeah, I saw a shoot interview with Jack Victor. He talked about that.
Yeah.
Basically, the genius that was Kerry Von Erich, he had a razor blade in his fingertips to, have blade or whatever. Well, Dummy scratched his arm and forgot about the razor blade. And as a result, Jerry Lawler tried to sell it like he was like stabbing his arm for some reason, He tried his best to make it work, but I don't know.
And that's another thing. They stopped it because of blood.
Right.
He had Lawler down. I still remember the finish. He had Lawler down with the claw. The claw, added a claw. And they stopped the match. It was and remember who stopped the match? It was Stanley Blackburn.
Yeah.
The president of the AWA.
He seemed to always do that with, like shady DQs of matches and stuff like that. I remember he did that with Hogan and Bockwinkel in a match once.
And I think that we're building more with maybe Fritz's boys versus Blackburn's boys,
Right.
And I would love to see that. And that never came to pass.
Well, I remember, again, with a faux shoot thing that the WWE did about the AWA, Vince basically said he wasn't worried about that because he knew those promoters would try to screw each other over, trying to steal each other's talent, which is exactly what they did. I kind of got the impression that you might see that with all this going on. I don't think Tony Khan would, because one, I don't think he's that true. I don't think he's that merciless, and I don't think he's that smart. I could see Callis or Dinsmore trying something. I could see New Japan people trying to do it. Somebody more experienced in the wrestling business trying to screw them over.
Well, when New Japan got rid of the American president, I forgot the guy's name.
Right.
He was the one who promised big ratings. He's the one that promised sold-out shows in America. He did get them to come to Madison Square Garden and sell it out. Okay? He promised a lot of big things and never came through with those promises.
Right.
At all. And if you know anything about the Japanese culture, you just dishonored them. They had no choice but to chicane him. He was the reason why the door between him and AEW closed.
Well, you say that he sold out Madison Square Garden. Look at the talent that was on that.
Yeah, and Ring of Honor.
Yeah, but I mean, half of it was what now makes up AEW.
Yeah, Marty. Marty was there. Jay White was there. Naito, Muta was there. I remember he was part of the Battle Royal.
But you also had Young Bucks. You had Cody against Aldis in a match.
No, this is when they were still building AEW. That wasn't there.
No, they were there.
Bucks. Oh, and Enzo and Cass were there.
Enzo and Cass were there.
Yeah. Against they went after the Briscoes. That's another thing. I would love this if there was a Ring of Honor crossover with the AEW. How would you like to see the Briscoes come?
Briscoes will be fun to watch, for sure.
Could you imagine them against the Bucks? Could you imagine them against FTR? Could you imagine them against Best Friends?
Against FTR would definitely be awesome. Best friends, I would love to see the Briscoes basically eat them and take them back to Delaware and put chicken seasoning all over them. Yeah.
I know how much you hate the Bucks.
Yes.
And them against the Bucks. What are the tag teams they have there? And anyone to the Dark Order.
I'll tell you who I like, SCU.
SCU. Didn't we see that in Ring of Honor? Where they were
Probably saw it more with
Addiction?
Daniels and
Kazarian.
But I'd like to see it with Kazarian and Scorpio Sky.
You know what? If they get those tag titles back, you know what they should call it? What do they call it? When they were the TNA champions and the Ring of Honor champions, you know what they called those belts? We're the tag team champions, world tag team champions of the world.
Okay.
That's how they called it.
A little redundant, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they were going over as heel characters, too.
Yeah.
But I would love to see the Briscoes. But my problem with the Briscoes are Jay and Mark. They're good promo guys, but they're not great promo guys.
No.
Mark can't fucking string a sentence together. But Jay is the talker of the two.
I would rather see a mouthpiece with those two.
Like a Dutch Mantel?
Dutch Mantel or even like Mitchell or somebody like that. Just somebody that can put them over and have them not say a word, just look like
two killers.
Two
axe
savages.
killers.
Yeah,
two savages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, because I think Vince didn't want them because, Vince hates accents, and they both definitely have that white, trashy Southern accent.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Again, the Jay Briscoe tweet about the homophobic tweet he put out when he was world champion.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was a fan of their style.
No.
Even though they're very old school. And I still think they're one of the best tag teams out there.
They are. And actually, now that you mention it, I mean, seeing Dutch Mantel, I think he'd be awesome with those two. That's peanut butter and jelly right there.
Yeah.
But,
or even bring Pritchard out. The Southern boy, you know?
But, yeah, you won't see that happen. And
Pritchard's too busy behind a typewriter screwing fucking people over.
Plus, Vince will be like, well, how are you going to put Brother Love with those two, pal? And it's like, he will be too narrow-minded, tunnel vision with that.
Remember the Francine shoot interview with Shane Douglas? They wanted to bring her in as Sister Love. Yes. When the Brother Love thing was happening, they wanted her to cover up and be Sister Love. They wanted either that or Missy Hyatt.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Missy Hyatt being there. Or bring Tammy back.
Yeah, all three of those women are all about love, but
yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. Actually, I met Francine. She's actually really nice. But
I talked to her on Twitter. She's a nice girl.
Yeah.
And she isn't she the one that books the reunion shows?
She might be one of them. I thought Shane had something to do with some of those too.
Yeah.
But
I think she was the main reason behind those shows.
Yeah.
And she brought back a lot of the boys. Like I see you got the DVDs there, like Forever Hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to go with managers now, who's the best one in the business right now? Callis? Heyman? He doesn't talk right now.
Probably Heyman. I like Tully Blanchard. I think he's real. I mean, they haven't used him enough, but I like what he's done with FTR.
Yeah, and even with Sean Spears
being an interfering manager. I loved Jake with
Well, about Archer?
Yeah, although now they turned Archer, and then it's like, Jake, you don't see him anymore.
Well, he's got health issues right now, not related to COVID. That's why you haven't seen him.
Right.
Other than that, there's no managers.
Yeah.
None. I mean, not even female.
And one thing Cornette said about Bayley, I'll agree with too, which was a compliment to her. He thinks she would be a great manager as far as the way she cuts promos and stuff. You know who I think would be an awesome manager ultimately?
Ooh.
Jericho. That guy, oh my God.
The promos? Oh yeah. Holy
I love
shit.
when they had him in the announcing booth, I laughed out loud when he talked about Arn Anderson bringing his Waffle House menu out.
Yeah.
That was...
he is going to be on the announce team this Wednesday.
Good.
I don't know if Excalibur is going to be Excalibur. Okay, my problem with Excalibur is he overtalks everybody, and he actually knows the moves.
Thing with Excalibur, I don't have a problem with him per se, but my biggest issue with him is he thinks that he kind of reminds me of you. He thinks that everybody knows who everybody in Impact is, everybody in the Indies are, and all that stuff. And he depends on people. He's kind of like lazy with his exposition of wrestlers, and he's depending on people's knowledge of them. And
that's why Shivani and Ross are there to pick up the slack.
Right. He needs. I mean, it's okay if he knows. He should say, well, and he does do this with some people, but he should say, well, I've seen these guys wrestle in California or in these territories or in these indies or whatever, and they're known for this type of style. I mean, he should explain them a little bit. I mean, they're trying to get new fans. He should basically, and I hate when companies do this, but I think Excalibur needs to do this: is talk down to the audience like they're new to wrestling, they don't know what the fuck's going on.
He did the same thing on the PWG DVDs. He did the same thing. He was the play-by-play guy. Either it was him or Joey Ryan.
Ugh, God.
Do you want to go there?
I'm glad we don't have to go there with him. I will eat that,
Well, like I said, the speaking out movement. That was another thing that happened this year with the mass firings of people. With Ryan, the proof is there. David Starr, the proof is there.
Well, that's two separate issues. I mean, the Me Too business, that's different. That's, that's people coming out. But,
you don't know how many people are crying wolf, though.
A lot of the mass firings, though, were from WWE and had nothing to do with that. It was just Vince being greedy and trying to, save some money after COVID closed down the XFL and he was having trouble trying to stay on the air.
Going back to Impact, Michael Elgin was working there. When the accusations came out, they did a knee-jerk and fired him like that.
Right.
Yeah. I think there were some accusations to Jimmy Havoc.
Yeah.
Jimmy Havoc. Where's the last time you saw him? He's done. He's gone. They did not put up with any shit. He's gone.
I mean, there are a lot of women that'll complain about victim shaming, but I think there's also a case too where a lot of times social media is guilty before proven innocent too. So
the social justice warriors,
right?
And like I said, you don't know who's crying wolf right now because you don't. It's hard to prove,
right?
And you want to believe them, but you got to think of it in a logical sense of way. You got to think of it in a logical mind,
right?
Like I said, with David Starr, the proof is out there. Marty Scurll, the age of consent in England is 16.
Right.
He probably didn't even know. Okay? Because have you seen most 16 years old? They look like they're 30-year-old now.
Right.
Joey Ryan has a track record. Joey Ryan has a definite track record. And you'll be surprised to see him working overnights at a Wendy's. At a drive-thru at a Wendy's.
If I had a Wendy's, even though there's no way I would hire him. I mean, I don't know. I would think the man would have hygiene issues.
Because they were working, again, he was working in Impact, and he was part of a tag team, believe it or not, called Cancel Culture.
Yeah.
With RVD. And where RVD was doing the anti-RVD hardcore stuff, and they had covered up Katie Forbes.
Right.
And Katie Forbes can't act like a stripper anymore, Mm-hmm. And the evidence is there.
Yeah.
The evidence is there. I was never a fan of Joey Ryan. You were never a fan of Joey Ryan.
No.
Even when he was in Ring of Honor, I was like, who the fuck's this guy? I don't like the Tom Selleck mustache 70s porn star gimmick. Didn't like it at all.
I mean, it's a shame that he had the Me Too stuff happen because he could probably be a good spokesman for Manscaped.
Yeah.
But,
but with speaking out, again, mostly it's a he said, she said thing. And then Kelly Klein Kelly Klein in Ring of Honor, she was one of the people who didn't open the floodgates. She obliterated them.
Right.
Because didn't she throw accusations and shade too? Mm-hmm. And mostly to management and how Ring of Honor was treating their workers.
Right.
Her and Joey Matthews from MCW, who was one of the trainers and working shows up there. He wants to have. I asked him on for the old show to be on there only if Joe Cuff was there, because he wants to have an open debate with Joe Cuff. Joe Cuff is the CEO of Ring of Honor. He works for Sinclair.
Right.
I've met Joe a couple of times. Seemed like a nice guy. I don't know if he's a prick or not. I don't know. I had more conversations with Kerry Silkins. Kerry is a nice guy. Kerry does one thing that I've never seen any other promoter do. Greets you at the door and tells you, I hope you have a safe drive home at the end of the show. And he says goodbye to you at the end of the show. You didn't see Dixie just do that. You didn't see Vince do that. You didn't see anybody else do that. I think, Kerry wanted to give you a warm, welcoming atmosphere. That's before Sinclair bought it.
Right.
And then Sinclair bought it, and it changed.
Well, it needed to change. I mean, it was funding. They were trying to get a general audience, and then they had Cornette booking stuff.
Well, Cornette has his own issues with Joe Koff.
Yeah.
And
they were too cheap, basically.
And Delirious, the way Delirious was booking. And honestly, my last show I watched from Ring of Honor was the Garden Show last year. When Matt Taven won the title, I quit. I quit watching. Because I don't like Matt Taven. I always thought he looked like Pauly Shore.
That's funny, because I think I bought a t-shirt of that at the Free Enterprise. You were selling them for like $5.
And him and Bennett are reunited for the Kingdom.
Yeah.
And Maria Kanellis is on there now. She said something about there's supposed to be a social media thing with Ring of Honor coming up. I forgot what it was. I guess Ring of Honor, that's when Delirious wasn't booking. You know who was booking at the time?
Squirrel.
No, before that.
Who?
Bubba.
Okay.
Bubba Ray Dudley. His booking was shit. His booking was complete shit.
Right.
Okay? I've listened to his Busted Open radio show. He has a great radio show. Don't get him near books. He can't book. At all. And I think him and Devon did have a promotion, didn't they? Along with their school?
Well, Chris, I have a little surprise for you. Joining us in the studio right now is Bubba Ray Dudley. Get the tape. Hey, I got a table right here for you.
Yeah.
Snatch him by his ass. I'll put the phone right here so you can hear. Okay, but anyway.
No. But then Marty took over. Not much better.
Yeah.
Not much better. He went to the Free Enterprise show.
Marty was just starting that, though. I think if they would have had the NWA show with their title bout and all that, I think I was expecting things to skyrocket. Probably everybody in NWA thought that too.
Do you think Khan being the money mark and this open relationship with Impact, do you see them with now NWA, because the NWA people are in there now, and maybe Ring of Honor?
Don't know about Ring of Honor. NWA I could see for this reason. The NWA, the recent incarnation,
The Shockwave
Corgan's, yeah, pretty much, there wasn't really an NWA. But it was Billy Corgan, Nick Aldis with that belt. Him being the champion, and then they can say, okay, well, here's Nick with the belt. We can put him, send him to CZW. We can send him to MCW. We can send him to Gorilla, whatever, indies, That was the whole thing. It was his gimmick was the champion and that fictitious league. Then when they had power, they started building around it and recreating the TBS set and everything else, but...
I was at Cage of Death when Aldis won the belt from Tim Storm.
Okay.
You knew who Aldis' manager was? Austin Idol.
Okay.
I haven't heard that name in 30 plus years.
He was in a few promos on some episodes of NWA Power. I understand that. And it's probably a good thing. He's probably like a good agent for them. And
I just like, he did a good promo, but in that CCW crowd, having an NWA title match went over like a lead balloon. It went over, like the crowd was shitting on it. Because they want that hardcore niche type.
Right.
And that's where Aldis won the title.
And how ironic was it that you had an NWA title belt in that building after what happened to Dennis Carluzzo's belt?
No, this is in Jersey. This is after that guy kicked out of Philly.
Oh, okay.
This is in Jersey. It's kind of like the Myers Pavilion.
Gotcha.
Like
okay. Was it one of those Flyers rec center things?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I liked the match. It was an old school match. I never saw Tim Storm before in my life. Before this, I didn't know how he worked. I knew about Aldis. I saw him as Magnus in TNA.
Yeah.
He's a good worker. I was like, okay, give it a shot. It's not a bad match. I don't know why this crowd's shitting on it.
Well, you just mentioned it. They're like, well, this is my whole thing with CCW, and you mentioned it earlier. Okay, maybe I was tough on some of those matches before they got to the hardcore stuff. But as far as I was concerned, a lot of those guys, they wrestle in Maryland and have the same kind of stuff. It's like, I wouldn't have to drive to Delaware or Philadelphia or New Jersey to see that. I can go to a flea market in Joppa and see that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you go there, basically you're going there for the blood and the weapons and the guts.
It's like going to watch NASCAR for the wrecks.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's almost like going to watch a horror movie, but...
Well, it's like their biggest show of the year is Tournament of Death because all it is blood and guts.
Right.
And garbage wrestling.
Yeah, it was. And that's one of my biggest disagreements with Cornette. He's like saying, well, I mean, I agree with him and I disagree with him for the same reason. He's saying, it's not wrestling, it's garbage. Well, yeah, it's true. But you go there to see that niche, that product. You go there to see that type of match or whatever. And
how many of those guys are still alive? Okay.
Well, it's funny you say that because a lot of the hardcore guys are still around, but there are a lot of mainstream wrestlers that have passed away and didn't do half of that hard shit.
Oh, look at J.C. Bailey. J.C. Bailey.
Yeah.
Brain damage. Who did shoot fights, basically. You're in there, you're doing shoots with him.
Right.
He took a lot of shots to the head. Nick Gage is the only one walking through this right now. And speaking of which, did you see the Dark Side of the Ring coming up?
I heard you say there's going to be one about him, right?
They're going to talk about the bank robbery.
Okay.
And they're probably going to talk to Nick himself. I don't know who else they're going to talk to from CZW. If they're going to talk to DJ, or they're going to talk to Zandig. But that'll be interesting in its own right because my eyes will be glued to that.
That'll be an interesting show.
But like I said, you talked about the deaths in the business. The biggest one in the business is Hannah Kimura.
Right.
And we talked about this on the other iteration of the show. It's like because of, again, trolls on the internet. And you can't control a troll.
And folks, by the way, we were talking about NWA. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen this, when we first started going into COVID, NWA still tried to have programming on their YouTube channel. And they had like different shows each week. On Friday, they had a show called Girl Power where a lot of the female wrestlers would host roundtable conversations. I think they only did 2 episodes.
Yes.
They did this one which we're about to mention, and then they did a second one about Black Lives Matter and racial differences and that sort of thing. But the first one, I highly recommend on that topic because, especially with Thunder Rosa, she was actually...
friends with the family.
Yes. When she went to Japan, she told a story about how...
Hannah's mother
took care of her because she actually was sick. Hannah's mother actually took care of her, and then she was friends with Hannah's mother, wrestled against her, with her as a partner, and then eventually had a match with...
And then she said, and Hannah stuck by her side to make sure she was all right. And from what I heard about this girl, I've seen her once at a Ring of Honor show. And I was like, wow, she's got it.
Right.
She's got it. She's only, 18, 19, she's probably 19, 20 years old when I saw her. She had the it factor.
Right.
But because of trolls on the internet, and to those who don't know what happened, she did the first ever women's match at the Tokyo Dome this year for Wrestle Kingdom. It was a dark match. It didn't even make it on the pay-per-view. Her ring gear got ruined in the laundry on this reality show called Terrace House. It's on Netflix in Japan. It's kind of like Big Brother,
Right.
type deal. And she went off on the person. I saw the footage. All she did was slap the guy in the face and storm off. The trolls came out.
Yeah.
And I found out a lot about the Japanese culture that I didn't knew existed. Hannah's half Japanese. Her mother's Indonesian. If you're half, not pure, they shun you.
Oh, yeah.
They treat you like garbage. And they went after her race. And they went after her mother. And I saw the pictures before they found the body of what she was doing on Twitter to self-harm. Japanese Senate, I said this on the last show, or last iteration, the Japanese Senate just passed where the cyber bullies can be held accountable, which I think is a great idea. I wish they could do it here because the last time I saw somebody trolling anybody, they went after Kimberly.
Right.
And called her Hatchet Face from Crybaby. And Alexa, for some strange reason, during the whole Buddy Murphy, Aaliyah Mysterio thing, was getting their wrath. Because Alexa, in real life, was engaged to Buddy Murphy at one time. And I don't know what... She even threw her hands up in the air and goes, why the fuck are you going after me?
You're right.
She didn't know. Trolls will be trolls, and we can't... Too bad you can't do what we were taught to do to our bullies. You know, go up to them, hit them right in the fucking face.
Right.
Maybe because of what the Japanese Senate is doing, and it's now a law there, and hopefully these idiots will be serving jail time.
Yeah.
Because they're accessories.
Well, as one grumpy old man to another, internet trolls, get off our lawns, man.
Yeah, get off our lawns. But, like I said, we can talk about maybe the next show, best ofs, our picks of match of the year.
Right.
If you want to do it right now, as a matter of fact.
Actually, we'll save it for our next show because we're almost hitting the 2-hour mark now.
Yeah, we can talk about female worker of the year, any company.
Right.
Male worker, any company, angle of the year. Because I did watch the Slammies.
Oh, good.
Best Trash Talker was... who the fuck was it? They even named Referee of the Year was Lil Nate.
Right. The best Slammies, obviously, and this is basically our own local bias, was the one that MTV filmed at our beloved Royal Farms Arena.
The Chicken Box.
The Chicken Box, yeah.
Was that the one where Vince actually sang?
No, that was one in Atlantic City, I think, after that.
Yeah.
No, this was the one where Roddy Piper won a song, and then Jimmy Hart got pants by Junkyard Dog, and then one thing I remember about that show, one thing I really miss about wrestling nowadays is the local promos for the monthly shows. Roddy Piper cut this awesome promo for that show where he was basically they had like a house show after MTV went off the air. They had a regular card of WWF, and he had a cage match for the Intercontinental title against Paul Orndorff. And I think Paul had the title, and he cut this promo where he had a blackboard. This was in 1984, and what he had said, he had a chalkboard. He said, I'm going to be holding a slammy in one hand and punching Paul Orndorff in the other. And Mean Gene, let me show you what's going to happen here. And he started taking a chalkboard. He drew this cage. And then he drew a palm tree with a bird on top. He said, all right, you know what that is? That's a Baltimore Oriole right there, up in the cheap seats. And right over here, Mean Gene, it's right here. He draws a door. He said, this is the back door that the Colts have left a few months ago. And then he said, but you know what? Really going to get me about this match, Mean Gene? And he draws this X next to the ring. You know what this is right here? This old lady that comes every month that gives me the business, you know.
Oh, yeah, we know her. We've actually seen her at the shows. Sitting next to the guy with the rubber chicken.
Oh, yeah. Well, we know a few people like that, actually. But, you know, we're grumpy old farts, and we know several of them.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up for this premiere edition of the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. Chris, you want to give your socials?
Christopher James Filato on Facebook. At C Filato. It's Filatow on Twitter.
And if you're listening to the show, you know my information. Basically, go to our RGC Media Twitter, our Facebook group. I may get a separate group for this show. I'm not sure. I'll probably just put the information on the RGC Multimedia show. And, of course, you probably hear my annoying voice, hopefully anyway, on Pro Baseball World Tour. If you like baseball from around the world, we talk about baseball year-round. Not just in the major leagues, but Japan, Mexico, Korea, the Caribbean, Australia, and in fact, we even have...
Cucamonga.
Yeah, just about anywhere. Anywhere where there's a ball and a bat, you know. Even if it's just Abdullah the Butcher going off on somebody. You never know. But anyway, we talk about that. And we also have a show called Comic Book Action Theater, which I haven't had a new episode of that in a while, but hope to do that shortly. There's a few interviews I want to put together for our next episode.
Part of the Grumpy Old Men Network.
Well, this Grumpy Old Man Network, you know. All right. Messiah, disciple. That's all I'm going to say. All right. All right, folks. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya!